Welcome to the Institute Up Close. I'm your host, Stephen Heiner, and with us is the Superior of the Roman Catholic Institute, His Excellency Bishop Donald Sanborn. Hello, Your Excellency.
Hello, Stephen.
In this series, we're going to look at the Roman Catholic Institute's directories, its theological, pastoral, and liturgical directories. And while His Excellency and I have actually talked about this before on Restoration Radio, we haven't done so on the Roman Catholic Media channel. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm just going to read through the directories, and His Excellency may comment as he sees fit. We'll start with, I profess that Vatican II and the doctrinal, disciplinary, and liturgical reforms which have proceeded from it are substantial alterations of the Catholic faith. I profess that these heretical, evil, and blasphemous reforms can in no way proceed from the Roman Catholic Church, since she is infallible in her doctrines, her disciplines, and her liturgical worship. I therefore profess that the members of the Novus Ordo hierarchy, despite any and all appearances of authority, do not possess the authority to rule, for they are the authors and promulgators of the doctrinal, disciplinary, and liturgical abominations which have invaded our holy places. I hold that they are false shepherds and ought to be denounced as such. I furthermore hold that the members of the Novus Ordo hierarchy constitute the Catholic hierarchy only materially, that is, they are in possession of legally valid designations to receive jurisdiction, although they remain deprived of this jurisdiction until such time as they recant the apostasy of Vatican II and its reforms. I think two things there, Your Excellency. One is, the first time I read this, these three words didn't hit me as much as later on, as you brought this out in other writings and other commentaries, doctrines, disciplines, and liturgy, that you say that these are elements of any religion, not just Catholicism, and that changes in any one of those things are problematic, but changes in all three, catastrophic.
Mm-hmm. True.
And on the last part where it says, until such time as they recant the apostasy of Vatican II and its reforms, what would that look like? What would...
Oh, it would be very drastic. The first thing to do is repudiate and nullify Vatican II. Vatican II is the source of all of it. That is something that must be nullified. It must go into the dumpster. All right, that's the only way to put it. It cannot be fixed up. You cannot put lipstick on it. You cannot in any way save it. It was a revolution. It was the tennis court oath of the French Revolution. I mean, it was something that was designed, planned for many years, even decades, to do to the Catholic Church, to overthrow it from within. It's got to go. So that it has to be a repudiation, nullification of Vatican II.
But you're speaking of who would then be the Holy Father. The Pope would do this. Is there any way for lesser members, let's say an archbishop or a bishop or even a priest?
Sure.
And they would simply say that from the pulpit?
Yes, take that position. I would love to see Archbishop Vigano take that position. Something like what I just said. I
think he's about 75% there, maybe.
Well, he understands Vatican II is bad. But I think he should say that, because everyone dances around Vatican II as if it is some sort of rock of Gibraltar that we can't touch or we can't remove, or, it's there. It stinks. It's got to go. And it was a revolution that needs to be nullified. So that's, and everything else would follow from that. In other words, the new Mass, the new disciplines, the new canon law, all of that, which is in accordance with both the letter and the spirit of Vatican II, would therefore also be nullified. That's got to happen. But attack Vatican II first. The rest of it would just fall logically. See, and then there has to be a return to pre-Vatican II standards, and Catholicism and liturgy, etc. Little by little, well, even as fast as we can, but in other words, it might take a long time to really rectify the whole thing. But we have to certainly move in that direction.
I hold that the Second Vatican Council and its reforms constitute an entirely new religion, a dogmaless religion of humanity, which differs essentially from Roman Catholicism as it has been taught, known, and practiced from the time of the apostles to the present day. I hold by Catholic faith that the Roman Catholic Church is infallible in its ordinary universal magisterium concerning faith and morals. I hold that it is theologically certain that the Roman Catholic Church is infallible in its universal laws, universal disciplines, and universal liturgical practices, inasmuch as it cannot promulgate to the whole Church anything which is false or sinful in these matters. I also hold that the Roman Catholic Church is indefectible, that is, it will endure as the institution founded by Christ until the end of time, and that it cannot undergo any substantial change in dogma, moral teaching, liturgical practices, or essential disciplines. I therefore hold that the hierarchy which promulgates and promotes this new and false religion has no authority to teach, rule, and sanctify the Roman Catholic Church, and that their very promulgation and promotion of this new and false religion is positive proof that they do not represent Christ, the head of the Church, nor act with his authority. For it is impossible by Catholic faith that those bearing the authority of Christ could promulgate a new and false religion to the Catholic faithful and in Catholic institutions. And I think right before I get to the I therefore hold, if I were to blindfold someone and read out the first part of that, they'd say, oh yeah, oh yes. Because it sounds something, the wording, the structure of it sounds like the oath against modernism.
Yes.
So say, oh yeah, oh, I'm all in for that. And then you say, I therefore hold that the promulgator which promulgates and promotes this has no authority. Oh, no. Right. We can't say that. But what's strange is this is simply a math problem. Yes. If this, then that.
Yes.
You cannot conclude other than this conclusion.
Yes. As I said, the indefectibility and infallibility of the Church demands the non-papacy of these would-be Vatican II popes, demands it. So either you have to say, on the one hand, he's the Pope and deny infallibility and indefectibility, or you affirm infallibility and indefectibility and deny that he's the Pope. The two cannot coexist. In other words, those two sides, the dogma of infallibility and indefectibility cannot coexist with a Pope who is promulgating all of the things that you just mentioned.
It's just a very hard bridge to cross for a lot of people, Your Excellency.
Yes, because again, it's almost an emotional thing. In other words, a Catholic cannot be opposed to the Pope, and of course that's true. So they have a fear of saying this man isn't the Pope, thinking that this is opposing the Pope. You are not opposing the Pope because he isn't the Pope. We're not saying only that he isn't, but that he can't be the Pope. In other words, that it is impossible from the point of view of the Church's teaching and its gifts from God of infallibility and indefectibility that he be the Pope. It's impossible. Otherwise, you must deny the faith. And it is not impossible that he not be the Pope. In other words, yes, there could be a defect in an election. There could be a defect in consent. There could be some other defect. There could be some sort of defect that would stop him from being the Pope. But the Church cannot defect. You see, so if something has to go there, it's got to be him.
Sure,
that's the point.
Appearances can be deceiving.
Yes, but there's that emotion, so to speak, that we want to be with the Pope, which is a perfectly Catholic idea, and yes, but you have to be objective about what is going on today.
I consequently hold that it is a certain theological conclusion flowing directly from the infallibility and the indefectibility of the Roman Catholic Church that the hierarchy which promulgates the new and false religion of the Second Vatican Council and its reforms does not have the authority to teach, rule, and sanctify the Church. I hold that it is necessary to conclude that the modernist hierarchy, the promulgators of Vatican II and its reforms, is formally a false hierarchy and must be regarded as such and treated as such by every Catholic. I hold that the modernist promulgators of Vatican II and its reforms are stripped of any ecclesiastical authority owing to their intention to promulgate to the Roman Catholic Church the substantial transformation of her doctrines, liturgy, and essential disciplines, and that those elected or appointed to positions of authority, however legitimately, must be regarded as false popes and false bishops. I consequently reject those known as John the 23rd, Paul the 6th, John Paul I, John Paul II, Benedict the XVI, and Francis as false popes, as well as anyone in the future who may claim to be pope, but who at the same time intends to promulgate Vatican II and its reforms. And we probably just have to put saint in front of all those when JP1 gets his also.
Yeah, JP1 will get it, no problem. He was in favor of birth control when he was a cardinal in Venice, so he'll get it, definitely. Yeah, he'll be... Yeah.
Accordingly, I reject the notion, commonly known as opinionism, that the formal vacancy of the Roman See and the episcopal sees in the aforementioned circumstances is merely a theological opinion, as if the opposite opinion had theological merit, namely the opinion which holds that these same promulgators of Vatican II and its reforms constitute the true Catholic hierarchy, and could be held by a Catholic with impunity. For to assert, even as an opinion, that the promulgators of Vatican II and its reforms constitute the true hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church is to assert implicitly that the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church in the name of Christ and by his divine authority could promulgate to the universal church false doctrine, evil laws and disciplines, and a false and blasphemous liturgy. To even hold this as an opinion is to implicitly deny the infallibility and indefectibility of the Roman Catholic Church, which is heresy.
I agree with that.
Do you know who wrote it, Your Excellency?
I can't remember who wrote that.
I also reject as false the notion of those who allege, in support of opinionism, that priests do not have the authority to require the faithful to assent to the formal vacancy of the Roman see and the episcopal sees in the present circumstances. For it requires no ecclesiastical authority to insist that the faithful be consistent in their rejection of Vatican II and its reforms, and that they avoid the implicit heresy of associating the promulgation of Vatican II and its reforms with the authority of Jesus Christ, the head of the Church, vested in the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church. It requires no authority to require that Catholics regard as a false pope, whom they reject as the living rule of faith. You don't want to be too hard on the faithful, Your Excellency.
Well, that's against opinionism. There's a whole school of thought that it's a theological opinion, and you could go either way on this, and you can't. It's for all the reasons that we've already stated.
And this will be our last one for today's episode. I hold, moreover, that the solution to the aberrations of Vatican II is the complete rejection of this council as a false council, including its decrees and enactments. The Second Vatican Council manifested itself to be a false council and devoid of the assistance of the Holy Ghost by the fact that it promulgated doctrines which were previously condemned by the Church. The heretical nature of this council is confirmed by 1. The doctrinal interpretation given to Vatican II by Paul VI and his successors in their decrees, encyclicals, catechisms, and other documents. 2. The series of abominations perpetrated by Paul VI and his successors against the first commandment of God in the form of ecumenical ceremonies which constitute false worship, even to pagan deities in some cases. 3. The alteration of the sacred liturgy in such a way that the Catholic Mass has been replaced by a Protestant supper service. 4. The tampering with the matter and form of the sacraments so that many of them, but most notably the Holy Eucharist and Holy Orders, including Episcopal consecration, labor under doubt or invalidity. Suppose we might add baptism recently, Your Excellency.
Not in itself,
not in the form,
right, but
in
fact, the improper conferral of baptism. Yes.
And if you'd like to, you can obviously see His Excellency's discussion of the article that was published on this point. 5. The promulgation of disciplines, especially the 1983 Code of Canon Law and the Ecumenical Directory, which approve of sacrilege against the Holy Eucharist and the sacrament of matrimony, and which demonstrate heresies concerning the unity of the Church as their theoretical basis. 6. The scandalous mockery made of the sacrament of matrimony by the granting of annulments for spurious reasons, constituting an abandonment of the sacred doctrine of the indissolubility of marriage. I thought that was the last one. Actually, there was another one. 7. The fact that Paul VI and his successors are in communion with manifest heretics, have openly declared themselves to be in communion with non-Catholic sects, and have recognized an apostolic mission in the clergy of non-Catholics, all of which destroys the unity of faith. Again, any one of these would be problematic, Your Excellency.
Yes.
But all of them together.
All of them together. It is an absolute destruction of Catholicism, and we are reaping the effects of that today as we see the Catholic Church effectively falling apart. I know another Novus Ordo priest who was told in the seminary, you are going to preside over the decline of the Catholic Church. That's a good way to attract vocations. It's like you're on the Titanic, you're going to go down with the ship, but you have to make the best of it.
Play the music as slowly as possible.
Get the people on the lifeboats, and then you're off, and then the thing goes down. Good luck.
Well, we will continue on in our next episode of the Institute Up Close to go through this directory. As always, Your Excellency, I suppose firstly I should say thank you for writing this, but thank you for taking the time to go through it with us.
Not at all. Thank you.